I'm Greg Shapiro, and let's queer up sports. FIFA's partner urges against Olympic-style trans ban at Women's World Cup. FIFA's anti-discrimination partner, Fair Network, is urging soccer's governing body not to adopt an Olympic-style ban on transgender athletes for the 2031 Women's World Cup, warning such a move could further stigmatize transgender and intersex players. The debate follows comments from Andrew Giuliani, head of the White House World Cup Task Force, who told Politico that securing a FIFA guarantee that, quote, women play in the Women's World Cup and not biological men, end quote, could become a major issue during tournament planning. Piara Powar, executive director of the Fair Network, which works to combat inequality in soccer, said, quote, we think it's important that even if a ban comes into force for the World Cup in 2031, it should not be embedded in FIFA regulations permanently. FIFA should not go the way of the IOC and exclude human beings from participation in football, end quote. FIFA does not conduct sex verification testing, instead relying on national federations to confirm player eligibility before submitting team rosters. The discussion comes after the International Olympic Committee announced in March that transgender women will be barred from women's events beginning with the Los Angeles Olympics in 2028. Well, leave it to Trump to appoint his inept golfing buddy, Andrew Giuliani, as head of there's something so fake, the White House World Cup Task Force. What the fuck? I mean, I guess the position of diaper changer for Trump had already been filled. And as I am so fond of saying, boo, sports ball.
Well, Andrew Giuliani is the son,
of course he is,
of Four Seasons Rudy. So I look forward to seeing if he'll ever have any mascara or whatever color dye running down his face. So a couple points I want to make. One, the reason we had the 26 World Cup and the 28 Olympics is because when they were awarding the games, they assumed Trump would be reelected or gone. He would have been reelected in 2020 and gone by 25. Yeah. Well, that didn't work out. No. So now they have to deal with the fascist and his acolytes. However, the Women's World Cup next year is in Brazil. Mm-hmm. And I don't believe there's a trans ban yet for that. And I have a feeling that's going to go off just fine. And then in 31, the games are in North America again, right. Canada, U.S., and Mexico. Right. The difference will be, of course, is that Trump will be gone. And hopefully someone competent, someone not authoritarian will be in charge and not persecuting women just trying to play the beautiful game.
I think that I am diametrically opposed to all of you on this. I do not believe in trans women playing in the same professional league or in FIFA. I mean, there's obvious advantages biologically that can be proven, and I don't want to go through everything right now because it's a shorter segment. But I'm more of the Neil deGrasse Tyson ideology, which is sports are by nature discriminatory. For instance, even men against other men. So there's definitely an advantage of being taller in basketball. So when you take a taller country or a country that has taller men in it, you have a much larger pool to draw from than, say, if you went to some Central American country and what pool that you have. But we don't do basketball based on height in the same way that we do wrestling with weight classes. Right? And so basically deGrasse Tyson's idea is that why don't we just find a way to make it a bit more equitable by person to person as opposed to just doing it by sex. And that way we would kind of solve the problem. But as long as we don't solve that problem and we're putting men against women, I mean, women are just not at all.
I don't know if I agree with that.
Yeah, what do you tell me, like, with some facts. Like, what do you disagree with?
I mean, I guess if we go by that, then we should have like boxing, where they only have it by like weight. So you compete with your same weight, because then we are the same size. I could compete with. I tell you, I swim, and I swim against some women that are way faster than I am. They're way stronger than I am, and I have testosterone more than they do. And again, if we're going by measuring testosterone or estrogen before you compete, some women will surprise you. Yeah. Some of them have, they may be XX, but they may have more estrogen and more testosterone.
Right, but we're not talking about just for fun. I mean, for fun, who cares?
But again, it's also
hormones also aren't determinants for the way that you compete in sports.
Oh, it's definitely a part of it.
It's lots of things are a part.
Right.
Of it. And actually, statistically, the thing that's probably the most indicative of how well you're going to do in sports is your social economic class. Like that's actually
not when it comes to
it's usually
sex.
Generally who had access to the best coaches, who had access to the most
camps.
That's actually the biggest indicator.
Have you looked to see when it comes to, let's just say, running or tennis, when you take at the elite level, and where do you think the top woman ranks with the men? Like Serena Williams, you would say, is probably a top woman. Muscular, you can see all of that, right? She doesn't even, I don't think, crack the top 25 of men, or the top 50.
Anna Samova has a faster return than any man.
Well, I don't think that they were ranked at any. I haven't clocked what that is.
She's a cisgendered woman.
But I'm just saying.
This has been a debate for decades. Even before we understood this trans debate, for instance. Like Billie Jean King in the Battle of the Sexes in the early 70s had the same question. And she beat him.
Yeah, she beat him.
But there's a debate here that's long before, that's largely about gender, and largely more than transphobia. I think at the root of this is sexism. That is generally we understand.
I completely disagree. It's not sexist. I have nothing against trans people.
I'm not calling.
I'm just saying that the reason why we have men and women's sports is because women don't have a chance at the elite level. And maybe let's just say there's 1 or 2 or 3 exceptions, right? But by and large, they're slaughtered by the top. Why are you shaking your head?
I don't agree with that.
These are facts.
Where?
Okay. Well, I'll have to come next time to show you where the women, in something that's more easily able to be objective, like track and field. If you look at track and field, where it's just we're looking at times, we're looking at all of this.
Is a woman. It's a cisgender woman.
And I mean, there was a case of a wrestler.
That immediately comes to hand because I just remember.
There was a case of the wrestling competition at the Olympics, and she was a transgender woman, and she was defeated by women, cisgender women,
right?
And she was,
So if that's your argument, then why have male and female? Why not just make it all one?
Money.
I'm not.
You get to sell men's tournaments, women's tournaments.
Really? So that wouldn't bother you if we just took out men's and women's and just made one?
No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that trans inclusion doesn't preclude us from thinking about how differently people can participate. Really good athletes are really good athletes, right? And that's
sure, they can be good. We're just talking about who gets to qualify and push somebody out, a cisgendered woman who it does not have the same advantage. And I'm not saying there's probably some horrible trans athletes that, aren't even, there. But the reason why we put male and female sports and we separate them is because by and large, males dominate. And it's because of physiological reasons.
Yeah, this is the other thing, and hear me out here, that gets me when it comes to this discussion, and it's basically also the discussion that they also want to outlaw pre-puberty blocking. So if you block the sexual development of men and women before puberty, like many transgender people, men and female, want to do, you will not develop this musculature or do not develop the frame not develop because you're basing it on
but that's kind of a separate argument of
but you can have them both ways.
Of course.
They want to have it both ways.
They're two different. I mean, I think you can be pro one and against the other. They're not necessarily connected, but I understand what you're saying. And maybe that is if there was somebody who, for whatever reason, didn't ever go through puberty, then maybe they're on the same level. But you know, whether you think that's a good idea for an 11 or a 12-year-old to go on puberty blockers, it ends up being a different thing.
And it's invasive. I mean, the case of that runner in Africa that is a cis woman, but again had a higher levels of testosterone.
Right. Like we all.
I mean, like there are variations in nature. You know, there is not everybody's exactly by the same rule. She is a cisgender woman,
exactly
but she look a little manly. Like there are many women that look manly, including Iona, whatever the rugby player, was a big girl. I mean, she's beautiful and feminine and all that, but she's a big girl.
Well, that's Neil deGrasse Tyson's point. He's saying that there are a lot of factors that are part. So where do you draw the line? Do you draw the line like I mean, I don't want to say arbitrarily, but we kind of drew the line by sexes. Okay, men do this, women do this, but should we then reimagine sports so that it is a little bit more fair and a little bit more inclusive, and we don't have the trans issue? And I'm on that ideology. I'm fine if we change the rules or we change the sports so that it is more fair. I would rather see somebody who's a really short basketball player play against somebody else that, you know, we all like to see kind of a fair fight. We don't want to see somebody who's 200 pounds.
Too?
What do you mean?
Where is this like fantasy of like this kind of being a problem that exists?
Right,
it's very small, but it does happen.
Like the idea that this is like a kind of ongoing problem that everyone is just like losing
this is
their
a talking point of the right.
It's completely a distraction, but since we're talking about it on this show, we're talking.
It's just
this is a talking point that they pick because they know that it works for their base, the extreme right. That's because it happens so infrequently. It really does. And let's say, for example, I've seen this is then the feminism where some women want to compete in American football with the boys, and we are like, oh wow, yeah, this is inclusive. Oh, she can do it, but then a trans woman cannot compete with other women. What's equal is equal.
It's not equal, because there are inherent advantages for the male body when it comes to physical activity.
But again, we're just telling you that there are many instances where women will beat men at their same game, at the same level, and they
we really don't.
Train.
I mean, just because that's not really
I also read
true,
trans women as women, right? Like I think that's an important thing to say, and I think I respect that, and I find that to have a dignity, and like that's an important part of this equation.
Equality never comes with an asterisk.
That's exactly right.
The American Medical Association, I know we need to wrap it up, but I would say the American Medical Association, when they weighed in on this topic, and I don't know if they've issued another statement since, the only reason that in at least one of their writings said that we should include trans people, or trans women specifically in female sports, is because of the psychological damage it does to potentially the trans person, but they never weigh in on the issue as far as fairness of like whether it's fair or not, because that's not their wheelhouse. They don't make those kinds of determinations. They're not experts on those particular sports. They just said from the standpoint of psychological damage of somebody feeling like, you know, they should be included when they're not. You know, it's harmful to them, but where does fairness come into that? And that's where I think all
And
diverge.
I think we will disagree on those ideas of fairness, because to me, the other idea of fairness is to exclude. To me, that would be unfair.
Yes.
There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by sharing them and subscribing to Queer News Tonight.